Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to another segment of Inside Dracut Politics. Before I go on to my agenda, I had the opportunity today to read my local paper. And to those of you who don't know or don't take the paper, that are over 65, the headline, monthly Social Security checks grow by $4 on average in 2017. Now, those of you on Social Security know that in 2016, we didn't get any at all. $4 a month. It doesn't tell us, however, in this article, what increases might have been or would be added for 2017 for Medicare. As you know, in previous years, they'd give us $10 or $15 and they'd take $5 or $10 out for Medicare. Well, I'm kind of waiting to be notified of what we will be charged for increased costs on our Medicare. In the back talk section again today, there's a caller. I stopped to ask a police officer for directions while he was working a detail today. I was polite, but he was very rude for no apparent reason. My 6-year-old in the back seat said to me afterwards, "Mommy, you said policemen were nice," but he wasn't nice at all. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you would think that with all of the controversy that we've had with our police department these past several months, that somebody would have learned that they're out there to serve us, not we to serve them. We're lucky that we have many public sector employees that know this. However, we have, again, too many who don't. I don't. A new poll taken in Massachusetts, Clinton up by 25 points over Trump in Massachusetts. We have to be, by far, the dumbest state of the 50. And I don't care how many articles I read about our facilities of higher education and what. I'm sorry, but for the past several years, we've been led by leaders, to me, that have lost whatever common sense they might ever have had. They are totally politicians, not patriots, not good Americans, politicians. And we, the people, are no smarter. How Hillary, with all that she's done, or all of that she hasn't done, could lead Trump. I don't care. Yes, he's different. There's no doubt about that. We've been so used to the silk-mouthed politicians in Massachusetts that's all we expect. Well, I'm not one of those. I know what Hillary has done in her 40 years of being in politics. And you should know too. And knowing the media the way it's been acting for several years, their biased reporting is done for a purpose. Not just the media, but those in positions of power want to stay in power. It can't be any worse than it is now. We've been lied to. Even our enemies don't fear us anymore. Our armies, our military have been reduced down to pre-World War II strength. This with the full knowledge of the fact that our armies, our enemies, have increased their military capacities at a much faster pace than before. And you have to ask yourself, why? It only proves again, ladies and gentlemen, that old prophecy, if you will, that if ever America is defeated, it won't be defeated by outside forces. It'll be defeated from the inside. And if you can't imagine what that would do, and has been done, you're lacking in something upstairs. And I read again in the paper today where the 18 to 35 age group won't vote because they don't like either one. Well, isn't that too bad? You took a chance with Obama on 2 separate elections, and look what you've got. And if you can't see what you've gotten, you're blind. Blind, maybe you might add dumb. There's no one that's perfect. We've never had a perfect president. Every time you vote a new one in, you're taking a chance. You have an opportunity this year to know who shouldn't be president of the United States, and that's Hillary Rodham Clinton. Why wouldn't you want to know or want to take a chance on someone that, oh yeah, he's got a big mouth, there's no doubt about it, but he didn't get to where he's at by being stupid or dumb or both. The Clintons went into office as paupers. They're now multi-millionaires. She's proven over and over and over again. And then I see in the paper women carrying the signs that Hillary is for women. Obviously, mentally deficient. Hillary Rodham Clinton as Obama, and as George Soros, and as Bill Clinton have their own little agendas. And they've proved it over and over and over again. And why? Why? Can't we see it? Because she's a woman. Where is the sense in that? Knowing she's a crook, a liar, a schemer, you name it, she is. And because the other one, Mr. Trump, says it the way he sees it, he is being crucified by the media and other special interests. Well, you voted for Obama for a second term. And Massachusetts voted for Obama. So that doesn't say much for we here in Massachusetts. No. I don't care if you're a Democrat, you have to be an American first. We coined the phrase patriot. And if you don't love country, the land of opportunity, known to be the greatest country in the world, and you're there trying to ruin it for your own little self-interest, you don't deserve to be called an American. The land of opportunity has been reduced to a land habitated by takers. The greatest generation now dealing with the lost generation, the pampered little who wouldn't know right from wrong if it hit him in the head. Me, me, me. Well, without a country, you won't have me, me, me. We of the greatest generation failed in our duties to teach our children a love of country, a love of freedoms, a love of opportunity. And our educational system certainly hasn't done it either. The pompous asses of today, their only God is money. And without money, You can't be anybody. The elite of today God bless America. He needs to. My quote: education is a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. Edward Everett. It doesn't say, however, when this quote was made, but I seriously wonder if it applies at all today. If you took a moment and gave the above quote some thought, you might come up with Common Core. Established by Obama and his lackeys, the principal one from Massachusetts, Mr. Gruber. It wasn't established and developed by educators, but by our stupid politicians in D.C. And Obama has proven again, ladies and gentlemen, that in order for D.C. politicians to have total control over its population, they have to keep them dumb, and dumber. For when they're in that situation, they're more easily controlled. But in order to do that, ladies and gentlemen, they have to have support. And how do you gain support today in America? Money. I have yet to read an article about Common Core that is favorable. Not one. Not one. Our political appointees in Boston have made some attempts to make it a little bit better. But how again did Obama accomplish getting Massachusetts to accept Common Core? And I'm sure that if he got Massachusetts to accept it, he got other states to accept it. His good friend, Deval Patrick, the former governor of Massachusetts, was offered, and he took $250 million. That's how politics works, ladies and gentlemen. It's not right, but how many times have we read in those cases where, well, in fact, there was an article in the paper just last night. Our former president of the, or Speaker of the House, Damasi, who was sentenced to 8 years in prison for a bribe of $65,000, is looking to get out because he's developed cancer. But we read it all the time. Governor Blagojevich from Illinois trying to sell the seat vacated by Obama when he became a U.S. Senator. Ladies, and listen, when I say Illinois, we know, and I've brought this up many times, Illinois is the second largest dysfunctional state in the country. If there's anything that goes wrong, it's either California or Illinois, the two worst ones. Money. Money. And Obama is not satisfied with just getting schools to eliminate from their curriculum U.S. history, where every child born in these United States should, by necessity, know something about why this country was the greatest country in the world. No. And our local politicians has gone along with that. But it's not just U.S. history. Books today have been rewritten to make America look like it's guilty of everything. They don't stress the good parts, just the bad parts. Oh, this country had its faults, yes. But we did have politicians that were Americans. That got us on the right road. And we, at one time, as I said, was the greatest country in the world. They're rewriting textbooks. And the incentive, again, money. Oh, I live in a $500,000 home. Or I live in a $1 million home. What kind of a human being are you? No. We've lost our way. And frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it started in the early 60s. We all know, those of us who went to school when U.S. history was a required course, know that our founding fathers, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, were all based on Christian values. Then came 1962, when the Supreme Court of the land ruled that prayer in public schools was wrong. And of course, we the people said and did nothing. Well, that was the start of the downward trend that was accelerated in 1973. This is when our Supreme Court ruled, but they had a caveat. They gave us a way out, but no one has taken it yet. Abortion. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but I have to laugh because everything that's come out of D.C. since that time has been certainly not to our advantage. It would seem to me that stupidity rules, not just in D.C., but in way too many others areas where politicians have been given a free hand. Ask any politician, are you in there to serve us? Are you in there to serve yourself and special interests? Well, I know what the answer is going to be. But it's not what they say, ladies and gentlemen, it's what they do. And I wouldn't hesitate one iota to respond to their answer without any hesitation. No. Ladies and gentlemen, who in his right mind thinks that the that the killing of a child in the womb is right? Don't give me that crap about it's a woman's right. Where the hell did she get that right? You want to play? You pay. Planned Parenthood published reports do 300,000 abortions a year. And we, the stupid people of America, give them $500 million in subsidies. Divide the 500 million by the 300,000. Divide it, try it. You'll see what it costs per abortion. But it's not just the $500 million that we give them, but I'm sure that they also charge the individual. But it's when I hear it's a woman's right, really, ladies and gentlemen, that sets me off. Same-sex marriage. Where is the common sense? It hasn't been right for over 2,000 years. Now, because of our elite. Oh, yes. The ones smarter than we are? Oh, yeah, right. The transgender bill. Oh, by the way, the organization that was established to get that situation on the ballot, I just read recently, have gotten the necessary number of signatures, and it has been passed that it will go on the ballot, but in November of 2018. Why 2018? Why must we wait 2 stupid years before we can throw that out? And I don't know that in Massachusetts that they will. They certainly haven't shown me that they have the capacity to determine the difference between right and wrong. It's the modern thing. Oh, yes. It's discriminatory. Oh, yes. No, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't any of those. It's that stupid political correctness that we've all been indoctrinated in. Don't say or do anything that might offend. We're not smarter, ladies and gentlemen. We're dumber. We've lost our guts. And certainly our politicians haven't had that quality in them for a number of years. Certainly not since Obama. Our children, ladies and gentlemen, are not a distraction. They're the most important work. We have to teach our children. We have to lay that foundation where a decent set of values have to be instilled in them, in these children, for them to develop into patriots. We, the greatest generation, obviously failed. If it was once implanted in our children, our institutions of higher learning took it away from them. Ladies and gentlemen, can't you see the plan? Can't you see that everything that Obama and George Soros, his boss, have done since he's been in office has been to chip away, to destroy families, make everyone dependent on the big government? And if it continues, ladies and gentlemen, we'll all be slaves. Our freedoms will no longer exist. We will have to do what we're told or else. Even now, people have been tried in courts for hate speech. Yet our politicians in D.C. and elsewhere, like Hillary Clinton, investigated by the FBI and found to be grossly negligent, not guilty, just grossly negligent. I've said many times on this show that if we were Egypt, our military would have stepped in and tossed Obama all the way back to Kenya with his brothers. And I often wondered why. I found out this week. Believe it or not, Obama has gotten rid of 200 of our military leaders. Obviously, because they must have worked against Obama's policies of queers in the military and women in fighting for in the military. 200. In the article that I read, said it's impossible to find anyone above the rank of major that is not a politician. The go along to get along crowd. For what? A promotion and more money? And the hell with America. I'm going to get it while I can, and the hell with America. Well, now I know. And there are a number of other things too, ladies and gentlemen, that in my readings I worry about what will happen if Hillary becomes president. The Clinton Foundation, ladies and gentlemen, has turned out to be a money laundering business. Donations aren't being made directly to the Clintons. It's going to the Clinton Foundation. Even our own enemies, known enemies, have made substantial contributions to that business. And you've all heard that old expression, you can't change the spots on a tiger. And Hillary and Bill have become millionaires because of actions that Hillary, as Secretary of State, and who in their right mind, the Benghazi incident where 4 of our Americans were killed when she was before a congressional investigating committee, made the statement, at this stage of the game, what does it matter? I mean, that from a human being? no concern for them dying, no concern whatsoever for the families. No, no, no. Hillary is for Hillary, and no one with any mental capacity at all can deny that fact. And those women who parade with these signs, Hillary is for women, sorry, no, I'm not. They're lacking because what has she done for women? What? And you might even say, what has she done for America? Except to tear it down. Not to make it great or greater. No. To take all that she could take for herself. Well, again, Dracut has been in the news again. Three articles were published in the paper on October 11th. Kathy Richardson, her side of the story. I hope you read it. It's interesting. Town manager Duggan went through his performance review, and there were some obvious things that happened that surprised the hell out of me. And again, our host of the Dracut Connection has gotten himself into more trouble again. Well, I'd rather spend my time talking about Mr. Duggan's performance review. One of the two puppets seems to have broken rank by giving the town manager a 3.74 out of a possible 5 in his performance evaluation. Where the other puppet gave him a 2 out of 39 of 40 issues. Yeah, that's a surprise. And another one was the fact that the selectman chairwoman gave him a poor evaluation. And I have to wonder why. If I thought that questioning Mr. Duggan on these things, I would be provided with proper answers, I might give him a call. In fact, I called. Well, it was my fault. He called on the 19th of September, I guess. And I very seldom check for my voicemails. And by the time I did, several weeks had gone by. So I tried calling him again, but he hasn't returned my call. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, the difficulty in politics is that you keep reading about one person not cooperating or not willing or whatever, and we see that, of course, in D.C. to a large extent. You know, the Republicans, their inability to work with the Democrats has been a source of aggravation for many in a long, long time. However, the difficulty arises in that it's not compromise that the Democrats are looking for. All they want is your vote, not your voice, your vote. Do it the way we want and we'll get along. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but that's not what politics is about. Politics is defined as the art of compromise. And if something is wrong and not good for the country, why should anyone even want to consider a compromise? Two wrongs have never made a right. But it's expected in politics, today's politics, today's politicians. One of the selectmen made the statement, we have someone who's working in our best interest. I took exception to that. Hopefully she meant the town's interest, because that's what they're in there for, not their interest. The town's best interest. But again, ladies and gentlemen, that's not what has been going on in politics for quite some time. In D.C., it's not the country's best interest. In Boston, it's not the state's best interest. And locally, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, it hasn't been in our best interest. The difficulty again is, and I've mentioned this before, committees, when established, are allowed to do as they damn well please. We see it in D.C. Organizations, departments, being allowed to make their own laws. No. Committees are there to recommend. And the first recommendation they should get is from the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. Before an article is placed on the warrant for town meeting. Now, were we in a position to have substantial number of our citizens attending town meetings like we used to have years ago? Now we have difficulty getting a quorum of 200. But that's not unusual. We only had 3.7% of the people that went out to vote in the last elections. Are we Americans or aren't we? And I don't care whether you were born in some other country and been living. If you're a citizen, you should also be an American. You should also have your country, your state, or your local community best interest at heart. But that's not the case today. The lost generation, depicted as such because of a good reason. A sense of values? Forget it. Right or wrong? Forget it. Now, the town manager's biggest score was given by one of the individuals, and the number was 4.23 out of 5. The one who gave him that was the biggest trumpeter of the manager's values. Performed his duties above and beyond what the job asks for, without mentioning any of what those might have been. You get my point? But in every instance, ladies and gentlemen, no matter who or no matter what, you're not going to be able to please everybody all the time. And the puppet that gave him the lowest rating obviously must have been denied his wishes. And of course, in politics, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a no-no. But hopefully, though the manager said, and he's been quoted as saying it, I love being town manager. Can show it by trying and doing things that benefit the town, not special interests. Because, ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do in politics today is deny someone in politics that wants something, and you're automatically on that list. But you have to be, in order to be a good manager, strong enough to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And if you don't have that ability or the capacity to do that, I'm not saying you'll never have a chance to be a good town manager, but it'll be a hell of a lot more difficult. Because once you give in, and that's where, he was compared in the newspaper to the former town manager, who, in my opinion, was, as an individual, a nice guy. But when he came on in '86 and did what he did, he was doomed. Doomed. But I will give credit where credit is due. He has made attempts. The investigation of our police department, the investigation of our fire department, the development on the corner of Loon Hill Road and Broadway, all things that were necessary for the town to progress. And we have people who will hinder that. Development, ladies and gentlemen, is a necessity. Necessity in the sense that costs are going up all the time, and unless you get something, then it all falls on you. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, think every time you read anything in the paper on politics, give it some serious thought. My time is up. Good Lord willing, I'll see you in 2 weeks.